Welcome to yet another week of initiation, yet another transmission that points us to the path of initiation. So, in this episode, we are going to dive deep into building the body as a temple of Christ, becoming the living house of light, the light body. So this is piggybacking off of the last episode where we got into the purification that's underway, the collective exorcism and the pain body healing that is required to do first. We have to go through that process first before we can actually build the body temple as a temple of Christ, the Christos, the frequency of Christ consciousness. We're going to get into those nuances a little bit more in depth, but as I record this, I had a whole, I was ahead of the game this weekend, this week, and I had every intention of recording this over the weekend. And here we are, December 1st. And of course, I was delayed in recording because I went through so many waves of energies this weekend. It was wild. And I had to be out and about. I had to be seeing people. I had to move my body, like literally just go out on walks kind of thing, because so much energy was processing. And we are very much still in that process of purification. And this is very much the energy of December as we lead up to the winter solstice, which is going to be a true, proper energy of rebirth, rebirth into our higher self, rebirth into the light through the cosmic embrace of the Holy Mother was the essence that I was getting. The cosmic Holy Mother's embrace. And as we do this, we are rebirthing into this new frequency of consciousness, into this new paradigm. New Earth ascension timeline is really being anchored through this solstice energy. And we have the assistance of Three Eye Atlas bringing in heightened plasmic energy, these plasmic codes carrying the photons, the literal light that is assisting us in this process of purification, of exorcism of the old energies that are not in alignment, which I got into in the last episode. So I'm not going to go on that whole spiel right now. But we also just had an X-class flare overnight. And oh, I can tell you personally, so many old energies were coming up and out, and it was wild. And I've been receiving infinite numbers of signs and synchronicities that point to me really being in deeper and deeper alignment. So it's been really beautiful to both witness as the observer and experience as the human this journey, this process of purification to prepare my body to hold more light. So after we clear the debris, we get to build the temple. So I've been talking about the body temple for years, and it's really exciting to be getting to the next level of building because I have been in the process of building the foundation, and my entire inner temple, Illumina inner temple, my wisdom school is essentially an etheric temple of light that brings us through this journey. And what I have been anchoring in is the foundation and the activations to assist us in building those pillars, as well as the integration, nervous system recalibration processes, those tools to really bring people on a coherent journey, on a holistic journey, mind, body, spirit, focus on the body itself, being able to hold these energies, hold the frequency of the soul, hold the essence of the spirit of the higher self. And what we're getting into is the construction of what I feel is like the analogy of the construction of the roof of the temple to hold the spirit body in essence. So it's really exciting to be at this phase of the journey. And there's so much more to come, buckle up. But we are very much feeling the culmination of the 2025 year of the snake energies, that 9 energy bringing us to completion, and the snake shedding its skin, shedding the old identity, shedding the old, aspects of self, the old energies that are not in alignment with the higher self. It's that dissolution of the ego. It's the ego body being dismantled, if you will. So, in this episode, in this journey, we're going to get into, what the temple actually is and such. But before I get into that, let me not forget to welcome you properly to the Heart of Truth podcast. Welcome or welcome back. My name is Amanda, and I am an oracle and a Grail Mastery mentor, and I essentially teach spiritual embodiment. I guide through activations, and if you feel called, I do invite you into the winter solstice ceremony, which will bring through a beautiful transmission, a ceremonial transmission and activation that brings through energies, but specifically working with this Holy Mother essence, which I've been anchoring in ever more deeply on this cosmic womb journey, a container that I'm in the midst of, in the middle of, that has been an initiation for myself, indeed, to hold these energies, hold these frequencies. So the winter solstice ceremony, you will get immediate, instant access to last year's transmission and activation, which will be beautiful preparation for this year's, because last year the Holy Mother came through in the most magical, miraculous energy. It was just so beautiful. And I kind of went above and beyond last year with the transmission. So there's a lot of content to just anchor into the organic, original essence of this time of the year, putting the holidays aside, the original holy day of winter solstice. So, what is this time of year really about? You've got a few weeks from me recording this episode on December 1st, right? But yeah, lifetime access always too. But yeah, so that is available, and you get access to all of that through the inner temple, plus access to 7 other courses, plus a whole vault. So luminary foundations, the foundation of the temple, and like breath of life, infinite possibilities. Gosh, I'm blanking. Awakening fundamentals. There's a number of other cosmic grace, Holy Trinity grace series. Yeah, grace wants to come through. That's definitely the energy. So thank you for your patience and listening as I share all that, because I really want people to know that there is so much more on offer on the other side of this podcast that helps you to actually integrate and embody and put into practice the transmissions that come through. I've already got a lifetimes of work, of content in there, an entire body of work, and I have so much more coming. But there's tons of value. And yes, the prices, the investment will be going up. The energy exchange will be going up because the value, because I added 8 golden keys to abundance in there. So again, thank you for your patience, but I really just want you to know what is available for you. Depending on where you are in your journey, there's so much, and there's way more to come too. So it would be good preparation if you want to go deeper. So, what does the temple actually mean? Let's get into it. So, when we talk about the body temple, it's metaphorical, yes, but it is more than that. It is an energetic architecture. So, when we look at the temples in Egypt, we can see that there's a very specific, very particular construction to these temples, which I'm not going to get into all the specifics, but when we look at Karnak Temple, for example, there's literally 7 gates that represent the 7 gates to heaven, which obviously is a connection to the 7 chakras. We also, in a recent episode, looked at Inanna's descent through the 7 gates. So these can be seen as gates of initiation representing the journey. There is a hallway, a passageway that people walk through when they enter the temple. So each gateway or door symbolizes essentially a transition to a greater state of consciousness, a greater embodiment of sacredness on the initiatory path. So a lot of the important temples really followed this template. They had this same blueprint of having the 7 gates. And then you have the high heart as the altar representing the high heart, which is where the Christ seed atom is held. So that holds our soul's blueprint. And then we have the spine as the scepter or the staff. The nervous system can be seen as like the wiring of the temple, the DNA, like the inner library of the temple, and then the womb or the heart center as the holy chamber. So the sanctuary, the inner sanctum, the holy of holies, this is the innermost chamber of the temples, and it's where the most, it's the where the meeting, the symbolical meeting of man and God took place in this shrine, in this Holy of Holies center. So the shrine would have often an image of a specific deity to which that temple was dedicated. And, we can see that there's a lot of distortions in a lot of the different deities and stuff like that, a lot of overlays, but I'm just sharing with you the blueprint, the template. So the statue of the deity would be, purified and clothed as if it were a living being in some cases. They often do these rites in the Hindu temples. And often the chamber would be immersed in darkness. So there would be like an occasional ray of light that would fall through an opening on the roof above or a window built in, and it would be in very specific alignment with the solar rays. So they would build a lot of these temples. Obviously, we know this with stone circles and stuff, in alignment with the solstices or the equinoxes or something like that. Usually the solstices, right? So these inner temples usually could only be accessed by the priest or the priest king initiate, the high priest or something. So they often depicted images of these high priests kind of standing next to the tree of life with gods or goddesses. Some indication that he was made immortal or deified on some level, right? So this is just to kind of point to the symbolic architecture. It's meant to be these chambers, these temples are meant to be symbolic of the process that we're going through internally. So we walk through the gates, but we're really moving through the gates on an internal level when we're truly walking the path as an initiate. So they would literally set up these temples to bring the initiates, the adepts through these processes of initiation to, enact these symbolic rituals would enact the process of facing the fears, purifying the ego, really looking at those seven gates and walking through them in a most literal way of initiation. So what we're doing as we dismantle the houses of the ego is we're building a stronger relationship with the inner light, the whoa, I just had a weird sensation of an echo. That was quite bizarre, honestly. Gonna check the recording here. Whoa, I don't know what that was. But the inner spiritual light, the Christos coming in. Whoa. And so, getting into the spirits of Christ, the spirits of the Christos, these are virtues that we are here to embody. What is a virtue? A virtue is a power of goodness, a power of God force or God source flowing through us. And so when we establish our foundation as the golden tree of life, the base 12 golden tree of life, this helps us to embody the Christ frequencies, and it leads us to that sense of the peace that passeth all understanding, all understanding. It leads us to that sense of perfect peace. So again, a virtue is a characteristic of a person that supports the development of individual goodness, and it's essentially for the purpose of service to all, the purpose of both personal and collective well-being, humanitarianism really infused in this essence of virtue. So this type of person will promote principles of love and goodness, of course, while giving, essentially this essence of excellence, striving to do your best every day with whatever they have to give in that moment. And, not from a sense of over giving and pouring from an ever emptier cup, but from doing your best in each and every moment to give what you can, knowing that we are still human and we are perfectly imperfect as we navigate this journey to divine perfection. Until we get there, we get to receive the grace that assists us in keeping on going on this path. So the goal here, yes, is to dismantle the houses of the ego and to build that strong inner foundation of light. So the virtues themselves include purity, generosity, patience, kindness, discipline, conservation kind of goes hand in hand with that one. Diligence, humility. Now, I'm not going to elaborate on every single one of them, but it's essentially this service to other orientation, and the sense of purity is not chasteness and stuff like that. It's this purity of heart, this purity of intention. Your genuine intention, even if you miss the mark a little bit, your genuine intention is always to do your best and to serve in the highest and to assist. And sometimes we have to help ourselves first. That does not make us selfish. It means that we're building that inner foundation and that capacity to serve at an even greater level. But the purity of intention and the purity of action that follows is what that means. And so, humility, being in that state of humbleness, allowing our ego to be humbled, I think is a huge one, especially in the spiritual community, that we are witnessing needing to kind of integrate more deeply for many in the collective. And it's the hardest because the spiritual ego will have us say that we are further along than we are, perhaps, or that we don't have any more shadow, that we don't have any more ego. Red flags whenever I hear that somebody doesn't have any more ego or shadow to transmute, just because I know where we're at in the collective. And usually, when somebody says that, it's coming from their spiritual ego, and that can be one of the hardest to break. So, service to other orientation really assists us in keeping that essence of compassion at the fore, and it really begins to break down those walls of the ego to keep us in that essence of humbleness, of humility. So to embody Christ is to really hold these frequencies. And so it makes me think of that question, what would Jesus do? Those bracelets that people had back, I never had one, but back in the day, a lot of people would wear them. What would Jesus do? Well, literally, that is kind of surging again in the collective consciousness. What would Jesus do? That is the pathway that we are meant to walk, bringing in that essence of compassion above all. And compassion for self is included in that. But to really understand the human condition, I know that that is something that my soul incarnated to really understand and integrate, is the vast spectrum of the human condition. And I'm not going to get into my whole life story here, but I have had many lifetimes within this lifetime, and I can see very clearly how all of the experiences that I've had, both the blessings and the breakdowns, have really assisted me in having compassion for a vast swath of the human condition. And I say that as simply a matter of fact. I've experienced quite a lot, including trauma and challenge, in this one lifetime, but also, my soul has been around the block. So it's really helped me to have greater compassion and, things that I'm still integrating now, of course. And I'm still human, like the waves of emotion that I went through in just the last 24 hours, it seems, 24 plus, give or take. I'm like, what? It's humbling in the most beautiful way, because it just shows us how deep these energies are wanting to anchor within us. I had such deep energies wanting to come up and out. And guess what? After I was, kind of, scratching or, touching the realm of remembering that essence of bliss, that essence of near ecstasy, even, and not quite, but, it's like, oh, I remember. And the more we allow ourselves to let go of the denser energies, like the grief, the pain, the anger, the bitterness, the resentment, whatever it may be, the more we can let go of that, the more we can allow ourselves to open up. It creates a literal space, a literal opening to allow that essence to anchor into our being, that frequency of being, becoming who we are. This is literally a journey of becoming the divine feminine, the divine masculine, the divine higher self embodied in human form. So, getting into Christ consciousness versus Christ embodiment. So, Christ consciousness is the awareness of what this journey is and where humanity is going, the trajectory that we are all being guided on. And then Christ embodiment is really the architecture of the blueprint for the body temple to actually become that person incarnated in human form, the way Yeshua, Jesus Christ, was able to, right? And so we go through this path of our own personal crucifixion and redemption, but the redemptive arc doesn't have to look so dramatic as it did before. We're going through this journey bit by bit, layer by layer, restoring the light body. So this is, the process of integrating the resurrection template and the eternal light body. It's not going to look the same because we're at a different evolution of consciousness. He was seeding the blueprint and showing us what is possible. However you want to take that story, that representation, that's, kind of not really necessarily necessary to we don't need to have that argument of whether it was real or not, because there are plenty of people out there who are saying it's just a purely symbolic story of the representation of what we're here to do. And some people who say that he was an actual living incarnated human. And it doesn't even matter. It's all showing us what we're here to do and what is possible for us. So, consciousness, to get back to that, consciousness is a state. Embodiment is more of the structure, integrating into form. So, it's that spirit merging with matter coming into form, right? So, what is important here is that purification that must come first. So, trauma blocks those Christ frequencies from anchoring because it is such a mismatch in energetic frequency. The lower density creates distortions in the field that do not allow us to anchor the architecture because our nervous system doesn't have the capacity to hold it. Our cells are carrying too much toxicity, too much density, too much karmic miasma, ancestral miasma for those higher states to fully anchor. It's like we might get a taste. Often that happens on the journey, right? You get a taste of the bliss, of the light that is available. And without that taste, it would be very hard to navigate the dark night of the soul, that trial that we have to go through, that initiation by fire, that alchemical fire that burns, that purifies all that is not in alignment. And people navigate it at different lengths of time, right? You can't put an amount of time on this journey. How long will it take? It will take however long your soul chose to move through this process. For me, it has been a long journey that has unfolded gradually. And I've just fully embraced that it's the journey. It's about the journey, right? Not about the destination, it's about the journey. I literally had an experience that brought that home so deeply when I was traveling when I was younger. I was what was I, like 23 or so. Was I 23 or 4? It doesn't matter. I had been living in Japan, and after I left, I fulfilled my contract to teach English. I was there for just over a year teaching English, and I decided to travel with my ex at the time. Um, we went to China, Nepal, and India. And when we were in Nepal, we had a couple different experiences, but one of them was trekking through the Himalayas, like an amazing journey to get to experience. And we did the Mount Everest Base Camp trek. This was back in 2009, I want to say. Yeah, 2009. And so I don't, people have all sorts of stories of how, there's so much garbage on base camp and stuff like that. Well, what happened for me is it was like a 10-day trek, and it was a beautiful journey walking through the mountains, having that experience of walking with the Sherpas up the trails, seeing all the different vistas of the completely majestic mountains surrounding us, and staying in these cute little huts and dealing with that. It was a whole initiation in its own right, with the very sparse conditions that a lot of them had, and eating those little dumplings or whatever the heck they were. I can't remember what they were, but I really enjoyed that part of the journey. And like they had funny little treats that I would just sometimes indulge in. And I love hiking. I like trekking. So that was really fun. So we get up to the place where you sleep for at like right before base camp. You don't actually sleep at base camp when you go trekking to base camp and you're not climbing. You don't stay at base camp. There is a camp or a site like a couple hundred meters below. And so what you do is you hike up, you leave your stuff, and then you just kind of go up to the vista and you're there and you get to see the beautiful view of Everest right there. And then you go back down and you stay at the camp there or at the site. And it's still extremely high elevation and everything. So what happened was we went at the cusp season, and it blizzarded as we were trekking. It started snowing as we were trekking up to that final site where we would sleep overnight. And mind you, like the oxygen at this level, you have to acclimate to the different, is that the term for it? To the different oxygen levels, and people will get altitude sickness if you go too fast. So that's why it takes 10 days, is sometimes you have to stay for a couple days at a certain elevation before you can continue on. And so when we got there, it was snowing. They were like, it's a little too dangerous. Let's wait it out, and hopefully the snow will stop overnight and we'll go in the morning. And what happened was it blizzarded overnight. So not only did it not stop, we woke up to over 3 feet of snow. You could not see the ground, and there was hardly any path getting to that point. And it was way up over my knees, but that whole night I barely slept because the oxygen, and I was anxious because I knew that it was snowing. And I was just like, oh my gosh, we trekked this whole way and we're not gonna actually get to the final destination. Like, what? But I was young enough and I was just like, it's okay, I'll come back sometime. But there was a woman who had treated herself to this journey, a solo journey. She had just like gone through a breakup, or I don't know what it was, but she journeyed there by herself for her 30th birthday, and she was sobbing. And I remember just like being in, like, I felt compassion for her, but being in deep acceptance that it truly was about the journey. And I have a fun story to tell now because I literally had to hike down the side of the mountain, not seeing any path. We couldn't see the rocks underneath. There were lots of rocks and over 3 feet of snow, and my waterproof gear got completely soaked by the time we hiked down that hill. It was a pretty steep hill, and then across like a kind of like a valley, like a plain in between the mountains to the next site. And one of our Sherpas had actually gotten altitude sickness. So that was a whole other layer of interest. But mind you, when you get wet and it's freezing cold, that's a whole other layer. So it was quite a journey. And we had to like put our stuff out by the fire to dry and everything so we could, wear some of the gear again the next day, like the shoes and everything. It was quite the journey, quite the experience. But to me, it was just like, and I got to experience that at a young age, right? So sometimes having those experiences, we see it's like that light, that experience of astral bliss is sometimes what I call it, or sometimes it's a genuine experience of the light. But then we still have a whole journey to go on to integrate the light, to be able to hold that light. So we think we have reached that state of enlightenment often like early on our journey because we see the light. But so that consciousness is activated, that awareness is activated. But what the real journey is integrating it. Without that experience, it would be very hard to keep our eyes on the light at the end of the tunnel because we might not know truly that it's there because we haven't fully seen it. But when we've seen it and then we go through the initiations, we know what is possible. So it keeps us going. It keeps us walking one step at a time as we keep navigating the path ahead. So that was a whole spiel. But when we understand that the lower density creates distortion in the body temple that doesn't allow the Christ frequency to anchor, we understand that we have to keep moving through the layers, keep embracing the process for what it is, and give gratitude for the triggers and for these moments that allow us to create another level of clearing, of purging, of purification of the vessel. You can't pour sacred fire into an unprepared vessel. The vessel has to be prepared, like the Holy Grail, to hold the eternal living waters of life, right? The sacred fires of alchemy. So, we're going to get deeper into this in the upcoming masterclass that I teased last episode. And I realized there's so much coming through. I have a specific order that I'm going to have to bring things through in the coming months, in the coming few months. So, and whenever you're seeing this, the replays are always available. But I'll get into that in a moment. But looking at the temple specifically as the house of the Holy Mother, so we've been really anchoring. The Holy Mother is being restored. She is returning to planetary consciousness. This is the return of the Holy Mother that we're experiencing. And that through my Cosmic Womb course, which I will be doing round 2 of, fully decided, we're going to be anchoring her more deeply. So the cosmic mother, the Sophianic essence, is really returning into our vessels, into our beings. So that's also the 13th gate. So we're expanding from the 7 to the 13. Beyond the body, we're expanding the chakra system. The universal womb is essentially reactivating. The cosmic womb, as I've been calling it, is more accessible to us now. And this energy is being restored. It's being anchored because humanity's consciousness, we have evolved enough. We've done enough of the purification and the restoration necessary to receive her, to restore her, to reclaim her, to redeem her. And it's really beautiful, the process that we're going through, because when we can restore the Holy Mother, it's restoring the Holy Spirit. So let me see if I always like to show an image of the Ankh. I don't know if I've done this. So if you're just listening, just picture an image of the Ankh. So the cross, the top part of the circle was cut off, right? And that circle represents the Holy Spirit. And the Holy Spirit became, instead of the female essence, the feminine, it was made into the masculine. Like, that's not the creation template. You can't create from the masculine alone. Everything is birthed from the womb of the mother. And so you cannot eliminate the Holy Spirit. When you cut off the Holy Spirit, you cut off the essence of the Holy Mother. So what is restoring as we restore the Holy Mother herself is the Holy Spirit. The inner Christos is being restored within us. So this is essentially rebuilding and restoring. This is creating the template for that resurrection body, that immortal body template. So we're not really achieving physical immortality yet. Is that a possibility? I will not say it's not, but over time. But we are restoring that original blueprint, the original solar Christos blueprint, that 12-strand DNA template, if you will, the Christos Sophia template, depending on what you resonate with. It's all kind of one and the same when it comes to inner union, creating light body coherence. So it's really a powerful process that we're undergoing. And when you can understand it from the bigger picture perspective, it helps navigating each of these steps. It makes it a little bit more like doable. We understand the bigger picture is so much bigger than us as well. We are not just doing this for ourselves. We're doing this for all of humanity. We're doing this for Gaia herself as well. As her children, we are helping her, and she is helping us to restore this original organic Edenic template to humanity. So as we do the work, it ripples out into the collective consciousness. And, I actually do grid work, so I assist in the clearing of the actual grid. I've been working on the Avalon Glastonbury grid. Oh my goodness. That is a gnarly one. And guess why? Because it's the heart chakra of the planet. So, with all those overlays there, it's creating distortion fields. But guess what? We are receiving the keys to be able to unlock this very, very wonky web. So, it's very exciting where we're at. And I have a lot of exciting announcements coming. That a couple, it's like a little too soon to announce. But first, I invite you to the winter solstice ceremony. We're going to really prime the body to hold these frequencies, depending on where you are on the journey, right? Guided by your higher self. We always call in your guides, your protection, all of that. And we prepare the vessel to hold these frequencies. And it's going to be this beautiful journey again with the Cosmic Holy Mother. And we're going to go deeper into that. So it's going to be this essence of rebirth. And a lot of the time, the full picture anchors before I go through, but I've got a pretty decent essence. So for full details, go onto the page and you can get access. And you'll get instant access to last year's, like I said. And it's available complimentary through the inner temple where you get all the other magic that I shared. And, we're being prepared, what's coming through now, to hold the frequency of miracles. That's a very high frequency indeed. But as we go through this journey, that's what we're being prepared for. And also, if you are feeling called to go deeper, crystalline womb restoration, karmic blueprint, or I actually just combined the two, but karmic liberation, soul retrieval, or soul blueprint activation, I am doing one-on-ones. And I do want to say that because of the energetic, I'm going to be restructuring my one-on-one containers to incorporate some more integration. So those prices, the investment, the energy exchange will be increasing as well as the inner temple. So I'm not gonna, do a proper like sale because the value that I'm giving for the current rates is already above and beyond. But now is the time to get grandfathered in, especially for the inner temple. So that is my offer to you, my gratitude offer before I raise the investment energy exchange. Because the energy exchange that I offer for my one-on-ones, I always do some integration after, and I'm like, this is a whole, I've got to create a more coherent container around that to allow for that proper integration. And so that's the reason for that. It's to honor my energy so that I can serve in the highest capacity for those sessions and to create integrity around it. And yeah, and then of course the master classes. So on 111, I'll be doing the Cosmic Womb master class, a free master class to introduce the energies, the divine feminine sovereignty, reclamation essence. So that will be a powerful master class. And then on February 22nd, I will be hosting the 13 Keys masterclass to higher self embodiment. So you can register for both of them now, so you stay in the loop and receive all the magic. And if you join the Inner Temple, you get automatic access and notifications for all the magic. It's all up in the back end where it's all organized too, in the course portal, in the school portal. So, yeah, we've got a lot of energies moving through us, and I'm always just, so excited to come on and share what's been coming through. And thank you so much for being here on this journey with me. Once again, all the likes, shares, subscribes, comments are so appreciated. And yeah, I am just a couple steps away from that audiobook finally being done. I've been receiving more feedback on that book, and it's just, yeah, really humbling. Let There Be Light. So that's always available too. That would be an amazing Christmas gift for your loved ones or people you know on the path, friends on the path. So yeah, Kindle and paperback are available. And yeah, audiobook, I don't want to make any promises, but hopefully real soon. All right, I'm going to wrap it up there. Onward and upward in love and light as we journey home to the heart of truth. And I am so excited to see you in the next episode. So much to come. Thank you for tuning in to the Heart of Truth podcast with your host, Amanda Erin Kelly. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving a rating or review on your favorite platform. And if you'd like to go deeper, grab your copy of my book, Let There Be Light, and join us inside the free community in Illumina Wisdom School, where you can access free resources to jumpstart your journey, such as a higher self activation and the Body Temple Blueprint Masterclass, as well as explore the plethora of resources, including Awakening Fundamentals and Luminary, my signature path to wholeness and mastery, to help you become your own healer and sovereign authority. You can access everything at thisartcalledlife.com or find the links down in the show notes below. Until next time, onward and upward in love and light as we journey home to the heart of truth.